and welcome here to TalkFCB, and welcome back to the channel here today, guys, where we are, of course, still in very, very good spirits. We are buoyed by the away win against Newcastle in the Champions League, but as we know, it's about keeping that going now. It's about building momentum, confidence. Football moves very, very fast, and now this Sunday we have another challenge, a different kind of challenge in the face of Getafe. And coming up today, we are going to be discussing how we're going to approach this game. I think we are likely to see several changes in Hansi Flick's lineup, and we're also going to be talking about the very latest on injury news right now. It is all on the way, guys, so get ready. And let's do this. Because I would like to say a very big thank you indeed to the super thanks coming in here from Dr. Rizimati, who says celebratory mood is galore in South Africa. Marcus Rashford silenced his doubters, and as we say here in South Africa, Chef Flick is cooking again. And I couldn't agree more with that right there. It is another season of Chef Hansi in the kitchen right now. And if we do just have a look here at the opponents that do wait for us here in this game on Sunday, we are going to be facing Getafe, and quite honestly, guys, I think you'll all agree with me here when I say that Getafe, they are an extremely unpleasant team to face. You know, they just are. They know it, we know it, everybody knows it. You know exactly what you're coming up against here. It's going to be a very, very low block. They are not really interested in playing football. You know, mixed martial arts, maybe. Football, probably not. They're going to do a lot of time wasting. They're going to get involved there in a lot of really ugly, sort of disruptive fouls. It's going to be a very physical encounter, and what I found extraordinary, guys, is that Getafe's coach Jose Bordalas, we all know him from the sidelines coaching Getafe, he said about playing there at Estadio Johan Cruyff, the most important thing about that is that the stadium bears the name of the legendary Johan Cruyff, and he said, Johan Cruyff is a role model for me. And that's something special. Now, I agree with him in that it's amazing in that we've got a stadium named after the great Johan Cruyff, but saying there that he's been a role model, I mean, I cannot think of a coach with a more un-Johan Cruyff style of play. You know, Cruyff would absolutely hate watching Getafe under Bordalas there, so I found that quite extraordinary. And what we will need in this game, guys, is lots of players here in this Barca lineup who can operate in tight spaces. Don't think here that we're going to have room, you know, in behind, room to operate in, room to run into. Those spaces aren't going to be there. They're not going to allow that. They're going to be very, very determined in the way they defend. We need players who can operate in those tight spaces and that do thrive up against deep blocks. But indeed, Bordalas there actually leads us quite nicely onto the latest stadium news right now, because he is correct. On Sunday, we will be playing again at Estadio Johan Cruyff. We are back in the 6,000-seater stadium, which, to be honest, you know, in some ways, it's not the end of the world, because against Valencia in that stadium, of course, we had a brilliant result. I also thought the atmosphere was pretty good as well. It is an enclosed sort of stadium there. You keep the noise in a bit. The fans are nice and close to the field, so I don't expect that to be any sort of problem for the players this weekend. But what is interesting is that this morning the club have confirmed that Barca versus PSG, our next Champions League match, that is going to be played now at Montjuic. Now, we have expected this news to come through. We were speaking about this just a few days ago. So Barca there now confirming that PSG will be played at Montjuic, you know, with a capacity of around 50,000 fans. We're very much used to that, of course, from last season. But remember, we were still hoping to play Real Sociedad at the new stadium, at the new Spotify Camp Nou. But it's not looking good right now. I think we're starting to hear more and more rumours, especially after this latest Barca announcement, that maybe, again, we're not going to make it. That's not going to happen as expected. Barcelona's City Council sports councillor, when he was asked a few days about the situation, about whether Barca would be able to return in time, he basically replied, safety, safety, safety. So I would say right now, there's a lot of scepticism about the return. I don't know if it's going to be possible to happen next weekend. Would you be surprised if it didn't? Would you be surprised if it went back further and further and further? We will have to wait for news on that, guys. But I think it is an important topic right now, and certainly very relevant, because when you see this week, and I'm sure you have heard in the news, big headlines here about the new La Liga salary limits that were basically released by La Liga this week. And as you can see right here, Barca's salary cap has actually decreased. Because right now, our salary cap stands at 351 million euros, and that has been reduced now by 112 million, which is a big reduction, I've got to say there. Remember, this is all based upon income. It's all based upon what you generate as a club. That there all contributes to the salary cap. And I think what we're seeing here is the desperation. We are seeing the reality of the situation. We need to get back to our stadium. Without that revenue, it's hurting the club. It is absolutely smashing our finances. And the other problem, of course, we are waiting on a big influx of cash coming in for the VIP boxes that we've sold. That's a deal that has been done. You know, the money is literally coming in. But La Liga will not ratify that deal. They will not account for that in terms of our earnings, in terms there of the salary cap, until we are back at the stadium, and then those VIP boxes are in use, and then they're very much active. So until that happens, that deal won't officially go through on La Liga's side. And again, that's why these stadium delays, that is why things going back and back and back. It's hurtful. It is hurtful from a financial point of view. And when you're looking at things here in La Liga, like the restrictions, we know already how difficult and delicate they are. This is not helping. But if we do move back to matters out there on the pitch, which are a lot more rosy right now, the team is looking good. We are all feeling very good right now in the fan base, and there has been more good news coming through today on Gavi right now, because obviously we know he has been struggling with that discomfort in his knee. It's been pain there that hasn't really gone away, and Barca have been going through lots of conservative treatment with him. There have been rumours, of course, about that keyhole surgery that we really would like to avoid. And well, the good news right now is that Gavi appears to be getting better. There has been apparently a big improvement in his knee and the discomfort, and he is expected soon, in the coming days perhaps, to return there to training. So right now the club are being very careful with him. They're monitoring his every move. They will not rush him under any circumstances, but we are hopefully moving in the right direction, and we are moving away from that minor surgery there. So that'll be very good news. We'd like to see Gavi back, of course, with the group. He's a player who can give us an awful lot. He can absolutely contribute in this team in the midfield area, moving towards the attack as well. We know how many different characteristics and qualities that he has, and hopefully now that pain in the knee, it is starting to go away, and we can see him back on the field, hopefully quite soon. When it comes though to the fitness right now of both Lamine Yamal and Alejandro Balde, of course both of those players very key players. They have been missing now for several games, and it is a real shame. You know, we want to see them back on the pitch as soon as possible. But today we did have a bit of an update. You know, nothing too in-depth here from Hansi Flick, but he did give us an idea of what's going on with both of these players. He said for Lamine, we've got to take it day by day right now. We have to wait. He's working very hard. He is progressing well, but we have to wait. And he said, as for Balde, we're aware very much of his situation, of his injury, and I believe his return is getting closer. So I would say right there, listening to those Flick words, and like I say, there's not too much given away there, but I think maybe there's a more definitive timeline for Alejandro Balde. I think the club have an idea of when he's going to be back. It shouldn't be too far away. It shouldn't be many more games that we're going to be without him. So he, I think, is going to come back quite soon. I think with Lamine, it's more open. You know, I don't think it's a more serious problem there than Balde. Balde had a pretty nasty injury. He's been out for several weeks. But with Lamine, it's more about that pain. It's more about that discomfort. They're kind of seeing how he's getting on, how he's feeling, when he can return to training. So it's possible here that, yeah, Yamal will miss this game against Getafe. I don't think we'll risk him either, to be honest, against Oviedo on Thursday. But then after that, you're looking at that Real Sociedad game before PSG. Those are the games there where I would say we are targeting a return of Yamal. But like Flick says there, it is very much at this point, day by day. However, guys, we do also have one more concern now that we need to discuss in today's video, because it does revolve around Pau Cubarsí, who you may have noticed did suffer a bit of a knock there in the second half against Newcastle. He came off with 20 minutes to go in the game. Christensen came on in his place, and Pau Cubarsí then on the sidelines. You did see him have a bit of strapping applied there, a bit of ice being applied around his left leg, and he then wasn't able to train. And this is interesting, he couldn't train with the group this morning. Now, what we're hearing in the media, and as well from Hansi Flick, that is only a precaution at this point. You know, I think the club are being very careful with him. They don't want to rush him straight away back in training after he suffered a bit of a blow. But Flick did say today he will be in the squad for Sunday. He will be part of the team against Getafe, but he did stress whether we see him from the bench or from the start, that remains to be seen. So I would just say right now, I think we're going to be careful with Pau Cubarsí. I think he did pick up a bit of a knock there. I don't think he's going to be risked from the start in this game. I think that would be unwise. You know, it's Getafe at home. You'd hope that we wouldn't have to call upon him massively, regularly. You know, you'd hope that we could do without him rather than having to kind of rush him back just for this game on Sunday. So hopefully here we're going to be careful with him, even though he will be in the squad. And I think it is also worth keeping in mind as well that after that Newcastle game, it was a physical match. It was a demanding game there at St. James's Park. Araujo ended with some discomfort. Gerard Martin ended with some discomfort. And also Robert Lewandowski there was feeling something at the end of the game. But what we have to stress on all of these players is that they did train today. So there's no big issues. There's no big problems. But I do think here we've got to bear in mind the demands of that Newcastle game. We have to understand here the players worked hard. You know, those that were out there every minute, they were working, they were running, they're pressing, they're winning that ball back. A lot of physical duels as well. It's a pretty quick turnaround from Thursday here now, coming into Sunday's game. We're at home, we're against a team that we should be beating, and that is why I wouldn't be surprised to see a few changes to the lineup. Which is why, in my opinion, guys, we will of course see the heroic Joan Garcia once again. And we hope that we won't really have to call upon him too much in this game. You know, hopefully Getafe are not going to have shots raining down on our goal. But if they do, Joan Garcia will make sure that he's there to simply bat them away. Now, at right back, it's going to be interesting here, guys, because I think maybe we're going to see Koundé again. I thought that he played really well against Newcastle. I could see maybe Flick wanting to rest him potentially. You know, Eric Garcia could come in and play in his place, but I would actually propose maybe that we see both of them in the starting lineup here. I wouldn't be a bit surprised to see Eric Garcia at centre-back, and the reason for that is because this is a game where the centre-backs are going to be incredibly advanced. We're actually going to get them involved in the build-up there. We're going to get them spraying passes around in Getafe's half, so I think Eric Garcia there in that kind of role could work very, very well, and alongside him, I'd also go with Christensen with exactly that in mind as well. And what you'd also do then with Eric and Christensen at centre-back, you would rest Pau Cubarsí so he can fully recover. And I also want to be careful with Araujo. You know, he did take a bit of a knock. He did take a bit of a hard blow there against Newcastle. So give those two the right amount of time to avoid any injury problems. And then at left-back, we are hearing it could be Joffre. He might actually get a big opportunity in this game because, yeah, recently a lot has been demanded of Gerard Martin. You know, he put a lot of effort in. He was really having to work hard on that left-hand side against Newcastle, and he also ended the game with a bit of discomfort, like I say. So this could be a big opportunity for Joffre. But would you be happy with that backline? You know, is that enough here against Getafe? Koundé, Eric, Christensen, Joffre? I mean, personally, I think it would be, and I also think they would really, really add to our play going forward too. So I'd be happy there with that back line. Now in midfield, Frankie could also get a rest here. He only just came back, don't forget, guys, and as Flick pointed out against Newcastle, he came back after 10 days, played 90 minutes, and at an extraordinarily high level, but we don't want to overwork him. So I think this could definitely be a game there for Marc Casado in midfield. He played well against Valencia, unlucky then not to be involved in the Champions League, but I think he could come in and do more than enough here to play against Getafe. And then alongside him, I mean, you don't want to play Pedri for every minute of every game. He's got to get some rest here and there, but at the same time, it's hard to think about Barca without him, you know, especially when we don't have somebody like Lamine Yamal, you know, talisman of this team. Pedri is the hub of everything, and if you take him out, you really, really would suffer. So I can't really afford to take him out of the team at this stage. I think then in attack, Rafinha, he was maybe a little bit more quiet against Newcastle. I think he could come back here with a good performance against Getafe. I would also start as well Marcus Rashford, and I admit here, it might not be the perfect game for him. You know, he does thrive upon a lot of space. We saw that against Newcastle. He's got so much pace there to operate in. But remember with Rashford, he can be direct too. He can make those late runs into the box. You know, you saw the first goal there, and indeed the second one. You know, if Getafe are parking the bus, if they're very, very deep in the field and you get space on the edge of the box, well, Rashford could crack one right in the top corner. So that is why I would play him. He's an option there. He is a goal threat no matter where he is on the field. But in the 10, I'd actually go with Dani Olmo. I do believe right here in this game, guys, Firmino, you know, I think he had a bit of a tricky time against Newcastle. I think he put in maximum effort for sure. We sort of bypassed him at times in that area. And of course, he thrives upon space. Now, Dani Olmo is more of a player who's very clever in his movement there. He's also good at getting close to the centre forward, and just those little combinations could really work well in this game. So I would go with Olmo here against Getafe, and for me, Lewandowski leads the line. In this kind of game, with Getafe as deep as they are going to be, you need players in the box, you need those goal-scoring instincts. Ferran is very good, he's very intelligent, he moves well, we know what he can do, especially off the bench as well. But I think this is a game for Lewandowski. We need goals, we need players to be able to break down Getafe, get through them here, and this is the lineup I go for. But do you agree with it? Because I know that I have made a few rotations. I know here that I have rested players, and I don't really want to rest some of them. But it is a long season, and we do have to pick our moments carefully. But indeed, guys, in terms of my big match prediction here, you know, we weren't too far away against Newcastle. We went there with 3-1 Barca. It was 2-1 in the end. I think we could have scored more goals there later on in the second half. But in this one, I am actually going to go Barca 3, Getafe 0. And I know many of you might be surprised by that, because Getafe can be a really tough opponent, really tricky. But for me, it's all about that first goal. You know, if you get that first goal nice and early in the first half there, well, Getafe then, they can't just play their kung fu ball. They will have to come out and play. They will have to come out and actually attempt to play some football. So I think here if Barca can start quickly, get that early goal, get a little bit more space opening up, get Getafe coming out of their half, there will be opportunities to add to that and to get a good, solid home win, guys. So please let me know in the comments down below, how would you line up in this game? How many changes would you make looking ahead to the games that we have to come? What is your score prediction? And who do you think will score the first goal? There's lots to tell me down below, guys, and I'll be waiting to hear from each and every one of you. Thank you indeed for the fantastic support. I'll see you tomorrow after the game for the big one. But until next time, as always, Veshka, El Barça.